All right, we're live. What's up, everybody? Today's Monday. Another episode of the Hot Box. Got a cool chat for you today. Do something a little different. Lately, been doing a lot of business product kind of interviews. We had Max from the Trichome Institute. We had, I don't even know right now off the top of my head, but this is just a guy I met. He's cool. Met him at a cannabis terpene dinner, and yeah, we became kind of cannabis buddies. So we'll get into that here in a sec.
On the seventh day,
the brain is hammered by the heathen devil weed marijuana.
Go it.
The terrors of tripping on top.
Be there, scour the spaceways, explore vast alien worlds. This tin right here contains the whole rigmarole.
I used to smoke about an ounce of hash every day.
Go it.
And it made me go a little bonkers.
Maybe if I occupy his mind with more duties, I can control his space.
Hi, big fat doobies. Hi.
Oh, hi, what's up, everybody? Today is Monday, August 15th, 2016. It's episode 185 of the Hot Box. My name is Matt Lee, hotboxpodcast.com. Check it out. Join me today. We got Tyler Hurst. You might find his writings on the internet. You might find him in a shop in Oregon somewhere. Who am I to say? We'll let him say. Tyler, how you doing, man?
Hey, Matt, how you doing? I am living here in Portland, Oregon, in the land of legal cannabis, and I have taken every opportunity to enjoy that while I'm still here and around and have access to all of it. It has been fantastic. I write online about cannabis a lot. I do a lot of other stuff.
What got you, like, you were born and raised in Oregon, or did you?
No, I was actually born in Yakima, Washington, which is about 3 hours north-ish of here. East of here, and I grew up in Kent, Washington, which is just south of Seattle. And I lived there until I was 20 or 23, and then I moved to Arizona for 9 years, and then I came back to Portland. So I guess I'm a Pacific Northwest native, but definitely not native to Portland. And boy, has that been an experience being a transplant in Portland. But anyway, the cannabis has been fantastic.
I've heard some rumblings about like the locals and then the locals that aren't quite local, and they're friendly but not really, kind of like a thing. But it's like, hey, we're all here to just like partake in this legal industry that you have, and to just not be criminals because of this plant. Like, I moved here from Montana to work in a medical lab in Washington, and then promptly got laid off once medical and.
Yeah, ouch.
It was cool. Like, it's cool to see an industry provide vacation and health insurance and all things that having a job for the last 7 years in Montana never provided me. So it's cool to see, and how many people it can support. Like, there's so much money in there, and not to make it sound like the bubble that it is becoming, as you might know from going to some of these conferences.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely something to see. We're like living in this historic time.
It's been interesting, especially jumping between two states, because I had a Washington State medical card when I first moved back up here in 2012, because I understood the Washington State program a little bit better, and I just grabbed my driver's license from my parents' old address. But the Oregon one, the Portland one, is so much more established and not better. Oh, I guess it's not really better regulated, but they didn't kill it yet, and it has been so much more enlightening and so much more helpful than I expected it to be. Now, this is also a product of all the Southwest Washington medical dispensaries were delivery only, I believe, and I don't know how those laws eventually changed. So I didn't have access to dispensaries until Portland, and it's been just a vastly different experience and a fantastic one.
A lot of what I heard is that, Oregon did it right as far as not leaving their medical patients out to dry, kind of in the way that Washington did, in more of a, it almost seemed rushed to be like, all right, July 1st, you know, you guys are done. You can go to the rec store like everyone else. Now we're actually seeing rec stores being able to fill out a form and then have their patients that are actual card holders fill out a form. And they are able to get like tax breaks or something. I have the paperwork here somewhere, but they get a tax break as far as how much they have to pay on the cannabis, which is helpful. But
and I think that's sort of what it looks like Oregon's going to kind of move to. I don't know, because they keep on changing the laws daily, weekly, monthly. Right now, all the medical dispensaries are eligible to apply to be a rec dispensary, but there's no real clear rules on if med can sell rec and then taxed on it, or if rec can sell med and then not be no one knows. And a lot of times the training in retailer positions is different for a med focused versus a rec focused. Because you want them for different reasons. It's not saying that one's legitimate and one isn't. You just want them for different reasons. Yeah.
And why can't you just go to one spot and get both like Oregon did? That's a good way to at least make the transition rather than.
Can you buy alcohol in a drugstore?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, I don't know about here.
I think I know we could in Arizona. I'm not sure if we can here, but it's the same. It's no different at all. Actually, it's much better for you than buying alcohol in a drugstore. That's for sure.
I actually had the chance yesterday to experience something rather amazing. And being in Washington, we're not allowed to have.
Please say you're talking about the Growers Fair. Please tell me you're talking about the Growers Fair.
After the Growers Fair. The Growers Fair was pretty amazing. That was the first time. What we're talking about is in Salem, Oregon. They had the Oregon Growers Fair, and this was the very first time that live plants they were displayed. It reminded me of like 4-H club in Montana. Like you have the people, and then here's the cow that they raised, or here's the tomato plant, something like that. But it was cannabis, and then they were judged on it, and there was your sativa, your hybrid, and your indica, and they gave out places, just ribbons and everything. So it was
a real thing.
Cool to see. But after that, I was invited to it's like a club, I guess, kind of like what you guys have in Portland, but you pay like $5 at the door. It's an old church that renovated, and now it's like this wonderland I kind of want to go live in and like just be a dab tender or something.
Well, I want to go now. Where is this in Salem?
It's PB
something.
Asshole. PB&H something. I will tell you after the show. I haven't.
We'll figure it out. All right. Cool.
But it was like a bar experience, but for cannabis, and it was so amazing to see the difference in attitude and how people were interacting with each other. Like it's hippy dippy to say, but it was all love. And like at bars, it's kind of the opposite. It's all love for about 5 minutes, and then
at bars, everyone really sort of congregates into their own little cliques, which is fine, around tables, and they don't really share drinks or whatever. But especially in cannabis clubs, the biggest thing is you're not sharing a drink, but you're sharing dabs. You're sharing all the stuff that you brought or you bought or someone else brought. And it's really cool.
Yeah, it was amazing to see, especially coming from a place like Montana, where it is bars and casinos and fights and just drama, and this was like the most peaceful, chill spot. Like I didn't want to leave. But
was that the first time you've been to a cannabis club like that?
Yeah.
Because my first was the world famous Cannabis Cafe before it shut down here, and I remember I was sitting right next to Foster Road, and I can hear cars going by, and the door was open, and I was smoking a joint, and I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna get arrested for this, but I didn't, and it was just this weird feeling of we weren't hiding for the first time ever.
Yeah.
And it felt strange. It was cool though.
A little bit, I think, to get over that. And once we do, though, it's going to be like people will be so much more relaxed just in general, and like a better quality of life because you have these offerings now that you didn't before.
Mm-hmm. And it's also, it can help people in ways that they don't understand they're broken either. As someone like me who's been using cannabis, I posted a picture today of I figured out when I first started using cannabis every day, not just using it like at friends' houses or on my own or on the weekends or just at night or whatever. When I started using it daily, it was at night at first, was in 2010 in March. I met a guy who had some extra, And I started buying from him, and the weight difference and so I've had it every day, and I've basically increased my consumption slightly every day since then. I don't, I'm just not smoking an ounce a day or anything like that, but now I also use concentrates and extracts and coconut oil, or infused coconut oil, and CO2 vape cartridges, as well as flour. And the picture between that day, which is March 23rd, 2010, and today, it is 60 pounds difference.
Like two different people, for real.
Different people, yeah.
See, and you're like the third or fourth person that I've seen make that transformation, and it's really cool every time because they're so much happier and more alive, and it's epic.
Yeah, it's been a fantastic, crazy, weird thing. I mean, I figured out earlier this year that I actually have PTSD, which is what I was using cannabis to treat. So I was, absolutely self-medicating.
But you didn't know why at the time?
I had no idea why. No clue. I figured this out in May. I was diagnosed with PTSD in May, and I had already started losing weight a lot because cannabis was reducing my stress. And what I noticed is once my stress got down a little bit, I understood things better, and I was able to make connections between things that I had either gotten really upset about in the past or felt a certain way, and now I felt a certain way too. And that's when my counselor and I started bringing up PTSD. And
when people stress, like their cortisol levels go, and that's just not healthy in general. And it causes things like you're saying, memory, focus problems, and just, overeating or a slower metabolism. Like stress, it's a weird thing. It's like a psychological thing, but it has massive physiological effects.
If you talk about, you watch The Matrix and they said, your mind makes it real. And I always thought that was kind of a joke, but I actually have a psoriasis type thing on both my palm, my hands, and my inner arch of my feet. And that only goes away when I'm de-stressed. So I absolutely know that my mind is causing that. It's not rubbing anything. It's completely a stress-based reaction to issues that are in my life or whatnot.
It manifests in a very real physical. So I mentioned at the beginning that we met at the terpene dinner. There was a terpene dinner in Oregon, and it was amazing. It was great people. The food looked amazing. I'm kind of the opposite of a vegetarian, so I didn't really eat much. The cannabis was amazing, and you just seemed like a cool kid. So we started chatting. You should, for like the audience and even for my own sake, like give us a little background on your writing and stuff, like how you got started in that. And you mentioned the PTSD, and I know some people out don't like to talk about that much, but whatever you want to mention as far as how that manifested or what caused it, definitely. I want to hear the story.
Let's start with the dinner we met at North Fork 53, which was the Midsummer Night's Dream or something like that. I think something like that. They did that. They had Geek Farms was the flower, and I'm a carnivore and I eat everything, so I had everything that day. I think I had all of Matt's stuff too that he didn't want. And it was my birthday, actually. I turned 37 that day, and it was just to add some milestones. It was 9 days off of Lexapro. It's the first time. I haven't taken a psych med since the year 2000, and that's going to start my journey. Okay, so. I grew up a normal kid. I grew up in Kent. Then I went away to college. First night in college, I had a bad experience with my fraternity that I hate and wanted. Anyway, it was terrible. It was accused of rape by the student body president, the most popular student body president in the history of the college, in front of 55 guys that I had just met the day before. Wow. And I hadn't done it. Unfortunately for me, I hadn't actually raped anyone, but he didn't know that. And so neither did everyone else. So sort of like what he said was true, even though it wasn't true. And then 3 weeks later, I got accused of another crime that I hadn't committed based on another person's testimony. And then I got in a car accident 3 months later after that. And so there's a series of things. When I finished college, then I got beat up by a gang and shot at. It's all true.
Wow.
So in a span of 3 years.
Oh, like, holy crap.
Yeah, in a span of 3 years, I had a bunch of PTSD, whatever level stuff that I never really understood how to get over, because in October of 2000, I was put on psych meds, and I've been on I mean, they start with lithium for bipolar disorder, and then I have antidepressants, and then ADHD meds, and then I ended up with Lexapro for 7 years, which I just got off of. So,
How do you feel now, like being off of it? I mean,
I feel like I did when I was 20 years old, when I was 19 or 20 years old, that weird sort of cloudy, little unsure feeling. I've never felt this. I haven't felt this way as an adult.
you're like experiencing life again for the first
Yeah,
time.
well, I'm experiencing life differently because with Lexapro, your emotions go from like 4 to 6 on a scale of 1 to 10. They don't go any further than that, no matter what happens. But now I have the full spectrum to work from. So without cannabis, which cannabis I believe helps lube psychological pain. Without cannabis to help do that, to help me separate from that, it's been. I mean, I've experienced joy for the first time in years, but I've also experienced massive sadness too. Which has been
Have one without the other, right?
yeah, you can't. And so I can't write. I've only written 2 things in 2 months, which has been really tough for me because I've been writing my entire life, and I've essentially been I write by freaking myself. I've trained myself through using psych meds and whatnot to, if I take my psych meds at night, when I wake up in the morning because I'm scared because I have PTSD, so you wake up in a little bit of fear. My psych meds tell me that's normal. And so I've trained myself to what I'll do is I'll get pissed and that fear I'll be scared. I'll get pissed and anger will kick in. And then when I'm on psych meds, I can use that psych meds as energy.
Ah, interesting.
That has propelled all my writing since 2006. My entire Twitter account, which I had almost 5,000 followers, all the angry conversations I got into. I took on the city of Portland when I wrote about gentrification last year, which was a mistake.
Gentrification or writing about it?
Taking them on. And so, yeah, it's like I've been living a slightly different life for 16 years, and cannabis has allowed me to open up and share that a little bit because all I know is how to share this stuff. It's what I've been doing for 16 years. I've been on public display as some sort of very mini celebrity, celebrity like 10 people. And it's been a fantastic, interesting journey. So I don't know what I do now. I host a podcast.
I saw that. Burning,
That's it.
right? The Burning Bush.
Yeah, we started recording those earlier this year because I was starting to, after I went to Arizona, hung out with some friends, I was part of the Cultivation Classic and tried 99 different strains in 1 month.
Nice.
As part of a contest. And then I started to, that's when I started to make memory connections. And I started to think of things. And my wife said I would start to laugh and then cry and then laugh and then cry and then laugh and then cry. And then I would equate like, I hate Uggs and black pants because I just hate them. And I finally figured out it was because I hate sorority girls because of what happened in the fraternity 16 years ago. And all of a sudden I got this little thing in the back of my head, like a runner's high. And now I see it and they don't hurt. I don't hate them anymore. I mean, I still think Uggs are ugly, but I don't have like a passionate, anyway.
Thing though, because it almost seems like the antidepressants, rather than helping you cope with the root of the issue and getting over it and then getting off of them, and we all know this if you're in this biz, like want you to keep taking them. Like that's all the racket is. It's like, come here and keep buying our pills and you'll feel meh, but you won't feel awful, but you won't feel great. You just be meh, but just keep buying them, But with the cannabis, it's like it opened up new neural pathways and you were able to redo some of that and re-examine it and then like move forward without having to continue taking the meds.
It's sort of like, I would say, the psych meds is more of a box, like you're in a box or like a four-wheeler. You're kind of stuck with whatever you can do in a four-wheeler, but the cannabis is much more like training wheels. I was very surprised when I smoked all 99 strains in a month because I was up to 5 or 6 a day every like 3 hours because I had started with 3 a day in the beginning because I'm stupid. I don't do math. And I didn't actually consume a whole lot more quantity wise in the end of the month as I did at the beginning of the month, which really surprised me because if it had been any other drug, I would have been, if I'd started drinking 1 beer a day, I'd have had, 50 by the end of the month.
fentanyl patch today, and then by the time I'm done, I will have 50 on me.
Yeah. I mean, it was about like 2.5 grams. I would just have less of every strain, and that worked out just fine.
Cool though, because then not only are you getting to taste all these different awesome strains, and I gotta say, I might get some hate for this, but Oregon, like, you guys have way better weed than Washington.
I would say the baseline, the low end line in Oregon is really, really high. I would say for the high end stuff, it's pretty similar, but the low end, like there's nothing below a 7 in Oregon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just going by what I've seen in the few shops around here, like Story, I get to Portland. Now I'm starting to get to more Vancouver. I guess that's Washington. But what I've seen here, the farms, like the bigger farms, it's just not that good. It starts out good, but then as the harvests go, like, it gets gradually less good. It's, I don't know. But you were exposing your endocannabinoid system to probably the broadest spectrum of terpenes that you could in doing 100 strains, which, as people are starting to learn, is a huge, huge thing. I've heard it described as the cannabinoids are like the engine and the terpenes are like the car or the driver, and they're taking the cannabinoids where they need to go to be most useful. And you smoke the same weed, and we see this in states that don't have medical or rec. You just get what your buddy has, and
which is what I had in Arizona, which is,
and so you get used to that, and you're not getting any more newer terpenes or anything. So kind of get stuck in that, that routine of a strain. But
and as part of doing this, I also wrote for Potlander, or for Willamette Week's Potlander, and I've had the opportunity to try a bunch of 1 gram samples of so many different strains. So I think that's part of it too. Is I've been accidentally dosing myself with the correct amount, which is all of them, to try to figure something out. But because I've been forcing myself to try different stuff, it's been nice. I haven't been able to get the cheaper, half ounce for $70 or whatever stuff, but I do all right.
Where else were you writing at? Like you had cannabis columns, or what was the?
No, I was just doing reviews of stuff for Potlander and Thrillist, and then right now I am working on my own podcast, and I am going to start writing about cannabis and PTSD stuff, because it's what I know, and I got to practice and figure out how to write somewhere. So.
And that's interesting too, because when people hear PTSD, they generally associate it with veterans and stuff. But people need to know, like, anybody can get PTSD. You just have to go through some traumatic shit, and there you go.
Because everyone thinks combat, and I'm like, guys, it's just traumatic. It doesn't have to be combat. And they're like, well, you never went through combat. I go, I got beat up and shot at. Is that combat? And they're like, oh, well, you do it. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but it doesn't matter, because the first one is what broke me. The first one was actually the least bad one. But that's what set the seed in there. Once that kind of messes up, and you don't have cannabis to try to figure that out, because I wasn't using it at the time, because I was drinking heavily, because I was an asshole in a fraternity. Big mistake. Don't join fraternities. God. I figured they would give me weed. You think in a fraternity people would give you weed, right? Like, what's the point of joining?
Sometimes, like, some powder sprinkled into it. I don't know. I got kicked out of college before I made it that far.
I should have left. Well, I should have left. I obviously there was some things that anyway. So right now I am really experimenting with what different types of cannabis can do to help what I essentially have is chronic stress, because I have a lot of friends and family members, I believe, that may benefit from some of this stuff. So I am trying to be as much of a guinea pig as possible, experimenting with different options, like clear, like your favorite, or a favorite of yours, for sure.
Some distillate.
Yep, some distillate, which is sorry, not clear, but distillate. My bad. And then on top of that, hemp-based things, which I mix with distillate, which work really well. It's cheap too. And infused oils have been the kind of the best thing that I've really.
Are you a fan of eating it, or are you dabbing it, or vaping?
I like to dab. I like to dab with friends because I love the communal aspect of it. Because I like the quick high, because you're with your friends, you get to laugh and joke and all that. but on my own, I eat it every morning, and then I'm, using CO2 cartridges or flour from there.
Nice.
Vaping when possible, but burning it. I'm not against joints or bongs or anything. I run a lot, so anytime I can reduce particulates is good for me.
Keep the lungs healthy.
Yeah, I mean, smoking a joint I can feel it for the first mile. Like if I smoke a joint today and I'll run tomorrow, I can feel it for about the first mile. But after that, it's not a problem at all. And I run 37 miles a week, so it's not really that bad.
That a recent thing as well, or
the running thing? Let's see, the year before I got into cannabis, I retaught myself how to run using Vibram 5 fingers. And now I can run 37 miles a week in them and some score running stuff. So I started off this year. I pulled my back so bad in September that I couldn't stand up straight for 2 weeks. And I had to go to rehab for 6 weeks. And then January, I started running 2 to 3 miles a day. And I started with 35 miles a month. And now I'm at 37 miles a week. And that is...
Ever run 37 miles?
Yeah. It's like, that's my meditation. That's what I do to chill out for an hour. And I get high before and afterwards. Dabbing big time before you run. Awesome. So much fun. One of the most fun things that I do. Yeah. You just get super stoned and then go run on a track or a round or whatever. And then when your runner's high kicks in, then you get double stoned because your runner's high is a mix of endorphin and the endocannabinoid system anyway. And it is really, guys can't really have spontaneous orgasms like women can, but it's the closest thing I think a dude can have to just an orgasm just randomly without.
You heard it here first. Tyler
Awesome.
recommends dabs and then run. Men, it'll be like an orgasm.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. So it's been fantastic. So right now, the coconut oil that I'm using is the vaped leftovers of the 99 strains that I had from Cultivation Classic. So, and I have all those profiles, so I'm checking them out to see if I can. God, it'd be great to get some research in here and be like, hey, this combination worked for me. You should try it, but that's gonna be tougher than.
Endocannabinoid system is different, but you can after a while kind of have an idea of like where to guide people. And I think like planning that idea also has a little bearing on how they will experience it, especially if you have zero pretext or context for going into a strain. Whatever the bud tender or they hear on a podcast or read on a website, like that's going to have an effect on it. It's an interesting drug in that case because it means that like our bud tenders need to be more educated in what they're telling people. And I hear this so much in shops, and there is, and I don't want to name any shop in particular, but there's a lot of misinformation out there. And I'm sure it's not done out of, just trying to sell this particular strain. I just think that these bud tenders, they just don't know. They know what they read online, and then that gets propagated. And until someone comes along with actual scientific evidence or research that shows, which effects which terpenes have on which cannabinoids and which receptors, which is a very difficult thing to nail down. Like it's all just going to be legend and lore.
Yeah, weren't Washington medical shops prohibited from talking about possible medical uses?
I'm not sure about the medical shops. I know the rec shops are.
Okay.
Or I don't know what that means as far as when they get their medical stuff signed up, if that then will allow them the training or something to make better informed medical type of recommendations. But yeah, that was one thing I kept hearing is new people would come into a rec shop and they would ask for this advice in which, patches or strains or tinctures would work best.
Might help, yeah.
Specific medical ailment. And the bud tenders are like, well, I can't tell you, but I can tell you like my experience. And then they would kind of do it.
Oh, so they can do that part. Okay. That's what I thought. They were prohibited from telling their experience too.
Help you. Well, I don't know if it's actual law or not. In my experience, I've heard them, mention, here's what works for me in this case, but I can't tell you that this will, cure your MS or whatever ails you.
Well, yeah, of course we don't know that, but
yeah.
Because I tend to be a little more educated than most, not all bud tenders, but most bud tenders when I go in the store. So I'm curious if there's what information's out there. But I don't think there is any. I think I'm just more educated because I'm able to experiment more.
That's
Period.
what it comes down to. And I had a great teacher once tell me that it's not science if you're not writing it down. So definitely, keep track of this stuff. Since I moved here, I was reviewing. I just thought it was novel to be able to buy weed at a store. So I started reviewing strains I bought. And I think I'm up to like 120 right now with like my subjective experience. And I'm always sure to like put that in, that this is just one stoner's view on this reality at this time and place. So mileage will vary, but it is interesting to see like how far this has come. And I've interviewed a gentleman named Max Montrose. He's from the Trichome Institute in Colorado, and they're actually coming up with a system and a scientific method protocol of how to judge cannabis and what strains versus phenotypes versus genotypes. He had another one in there, like phyto something types that I'd never heard before. But yeah, the interview is great. And I'm going to try and get down to Colorado to do this. They do all these classes. And I guess in Colorado, your shops can have this certification. It's called TAG. And the shops that are certified in it, their bud tenders went through the class. They passed the test, just like, any other business certification. And now they're better able to give you the info that you need on the material that you're getting, whether it be extracts or flower or whatever. But if it takes off, I think that could definitely change the whole way. Because right now, like stores up here, I don't know if it's the same in Oregon, but they buy based on THC content, which
because consumers are coming and asking based on THC content,
they just,
which is wrong.
No way to quantify it unless this system like works out or someone else comes up with another way to do that. But it's very involved. Like you wouldn't think just from being stoners from back in the day that like, oh my God, there's like a whole science here, which is awesome.
A lot of science.
We're scientists almost.
Well, no, most of them, most of them are. I mean, most of the producers certainly are. Any of the processors are certainly scientists. I mean, just because you started in your garage, I mean, a lot of things start in the garage, right? Or your backyard, same thing.
Yep.
But yeah, I saw that Chalice Farms by the airport here has their processing facility in the same building as their dispensary up there. So you can actually look through and you can see where their CO2 extracts are being CO2 concentrate or extract.
Well, it's all extracted, but then you have to.
Yeah, but Oregon has different rule. I think Oregon classifies it as an extract because rosin and hash are concentrates and CO2 is an extract.
Okay.
Or Oregon, legally in Oregon, I'm saying. I'm not saying as far as the industry.
First, and then what you have is oil with solvent in it. So once you have that extract, you have to concentrate your extract down, and that's where your concentrate comes from, as I understand. But different words. I don't know. So what are you doing now? You mentioned the podcast. Tell me more about that. It's who hosts it? It's you and a buddy of yours?
Yeah, Burning Bush Podcast. It is a weekly podcast hosted by me and Casey Swain, who is another cannabis writer, and he actually also works at a dispensary at Bridge City Collective. We have been working on Potlander stuff together for a year and a half now, and we decided a couple months ago to kind of sit down and record our conversations of us talking about our stories or discussing what we thought about what cannabis was working for us, because I started to notice that I was changing. Things were happening to me. I was starting to lose weight and
my foot dropped.
Yeah, I feel better. And yeah, it was really a second puberty. I mean, I know that's joking, but I got way skinnier and I felt better about myself. So yeah, it was sort of like a second puberty. And so we started recording all these, and it's just us going back and forth about whatever we can think of that's going on in Oregon cannabis, and then me kind of talking more about my experiments, because Casey doesn't have as much time to experiment as I do. So it's him talking about industry stuff and me talking about personal experiments, and it's been really fun so far.
That's awesome. You guys have 3 or 4 episodes out? How many?
Six episodes. I have a big, like an hour-long one coming up next week. And then I think we have something like 12 more that have been recorded. So
You're an episode hoarder, huh?
I had, because of my experience last year in writing about the gentrification thing, and then I tweet about cyclists and got my client list destroyed by Portland activists, the same ones that came after me for the first one. I was a little hesitant to launch something in Portland because of I wasn't able to handle it. And then once I started to figure out my PTSD stuff, I was able to then understand and cope, and that's why I was able to launch it. But yeah, so that's why I hoarded it. I know that's a weird kind of sad thing, but it's totally true. It's why I did that.
No, it makes sense. It's better than just me doing it because I'm lazy, you know.
Yeah.
At least you had a reason.
Well, I was terrified. I don't know if that's a really great reason, but it was true.
That's messed up though. Like, you guys should be a lot nicer to Tyler. He's a cool kid. Up Portland. Got a problem?
There's a lot of circumstances that made I was one part of it. No, anyway, but the cannabis has been absolutely fantastic. So I don't really care about the other stuff now. Who gives a shit?
Exactly, right? That's you pick the one thing that makes you happy and you focus in on that and just do it.
Yeah, it's been really cool.
That's cool. Tell me about some experiments.
Experiments. We've been eating infused food. I for 2 days in May, which coincided with the time I lost all the weight. I ate 6 meals that had at least 100 some milligrams of THC in every meal. So there was nothing that I didn't eat. And this was just and that was in addition to my normal regular cannabis intake. So I was really, really, really kind of uncomfortably stoned for 48 hours straight. And it reset my body. I know that sounds weird. I know you're going to be like, oh, that guy's strange and creepy, but that's when I started losing all the weight. And all of a sudden I started to get more energy. I started to have my mind. That's when I started making all those connections with the old things that I had done that didn't make sense in my mind or why I'd freaked out.
The reset makes a lot of sense, actually. I went through an ibogaine trip quite a few years ago, and that's kind of the best way I can describe it. Like, I had an opiate issue for like 10 years, and rehabs weren't working, and I just found this ibogaine clinic in Mexico. So I was like, all right, one last shot, let's see what happens before I end up killing myself here. And it was like a complete reset.
Or reboot, not reset, reboot. Reboot's a good way to say it, yeah.
And it just like cleanses your system. It disconnects your brain from your feels. And so you're not like wanting to kill yourself because of withdrawals, but it's showing you like all the bits and pieces in your life that you went wrong to get yourself where you were. And it was a weird, like, I've done most of the plant teacher medicines before, but I'd never done this one. And it was the most intense experience I've ever had. It was 24 hours of like being paralyzed, basically, because it's a dissociative. So that's why you don't feel the withdrawals. You're disconnected from all of it. But then it's like you're sitting in this movie theater whenever you close your eyes and it shows you all the shit that you messed up. And if you don't deal with it in a way that pleases this plant teacher, I know this sounds so crazy. You got to try it.
I want to now.
We'll go to Mexico. If you don't deal with it in the way that pleases this spirit teacher, that it's like, all right, that's fine. We'll set this aside, but we will be back to it. Believe that we'll be back, and it'll show you something else, and you'll deal with that, and it'll keep coming back to the set of things that you're not dealing with until you deal with it. And it helps you deal with it by like, and I don't know scientifically, but it's doing something in your brain with these new pathways that it's opening up that allows you to see that part of your life from a different perspective, and then deal with it. And then you come out and you're like, whoa, what
was it called again?
Ibogaine.
All right, because I watched the ayahuasca stuff, and that sounds
the tryptamine, like ayahuasca and like psilocybin, they're all tryptamines. DMT, also a tryptamine. DMT is like on the very, very light end of the spectrum as far as duration. intensity, it's more than your psilocybin, about the same as your ayahuasca, but less. It's like a 15-minute trip, but it might take an hour because it is so intense. And then your ayahuasca is obviously it's DMT with MAOI, so that it's orally active. Your liver produces these monoamine oxidase, and that metabolizes it before it gets to your brain. So you take the MAOI to inhibit that, and then you have a 6-hour DMT trip, basically.
Oh.
And then ibogaine is like the other side of that spectrum, where you eat like 2 of these capsules that the doctor there prepared, and it's a 24-hour, like, you're in it for the duration. There's nothing. You better be comfortable and not somewhere where you'll need to walk around. And I do want to go back and try it again, like not recreationally, but more meditationally and
focused. Yeah.
Experience than like when it's trying to detox you. I'm kind of curious what it would show if you were there to just be like, hey, show me some shit. I don't need to detox or anything, but I'm curious what else you have to show me.
That's interesting you say that, because I've noticed a difference between because when I did my my 48-hour thing, which I started to and similar to you say you were trying to deal with stuff, is what I had emotions or feelings that I could then connect to different things that happened in my life, and then all of a sudden I realized they were connected by this emotion, and they were actually started by this thing, and they really had nothing to do with each other. They were connected by emotion, not by anything important. Anyway, but I was still on Lexapro at the time. So and that's one of the things that when I started to get upset, I had what essentially were temper tantrums, but they were really episodes or whatever, of being stuck because I couldn't figure out where to go because the Lexapro was in my way. I haven't actually taken, well, yes, I have. And since then, I've actually taken a lot more cannabis in this, but not over the same amount of time. And it's been a different high for me. It's been scarier.
More,
way more intense now because I don't have that emotional. I mean, you're talking about your experience, 24 hours of you have to be in it. I've noticed that I need to, and fortunately I've been in a much better mood lately, so it's been easier, but I really need to be in a good mood in order to get really high now, or I won't like it, which is good and bad because that means I'm sort of seeing stuff that I need to confront. And I can't really run away from it anymore. And that's an interesting progression, unintentional progression.
Point, then it becomes a reward system. So if I can be in a good mood, I'm going to get stoned and be in a great mood. But if I'm a grumpy Gus, then, I'm just going to sit here and be pissed.
Yeah. So no, it doesn't change my mood a whole lot. I've noticed it just, it takes away the anxiety. So whatever mood I'm in, it just makes that whatever it was going to be.
Right.
Yeah.
So you were recently at the Indo Expo in Portland. I tried to catch up with you then, but we're both just all over the place. And then had to take off. Do you want to just mention like anything you saw there that was awesome or not awesome, or just your a quick experience of it?
The expos are always the expos that are in the Portland Expo Center up at the end of the yellow line or blue line or whatever. I don't know. It's the northernmost train in Portland. So it feels like the furthest north in Portland I can go because I don't like to drive. I will, but I don't like it. They're always so not cannabis friendly because they're in the middle of this professional place and they're obviously like low overhead small businesses, or like small profit small businesses because none of their booths are all that. I don't know. What I did see, which stood out, which looks very funny against the rest of the businesses there, is a massive amount of industrial or commercial vendors that are looking to get into warehousing and security and energy consumption. And I think that it's nice to see it so grown up because cannabis fairs are no longer just about hemp products and stuff that people made when they were high. It's really expensive and really advanced now that I don't think that even industry people who are going in, unless they're seriously into the industry, there's nothing really to see much anymore, which I think is a good thing in some ways.
We're getting past that point.
We're getting past the stigma and all that stuff.
Everyone will have to investment money. We're going to bring our biggest, flashiest, most worthless machine and try and sucker you into buying it because you have all this money. It is when I first noticed that at a Canicon, I think it was either last year or 2 years ago, but we started seeing like larger companies that have been in like the chemistry industry for a long time, but now they know people are using their equipment in the cannabis industry, so they better, get someone here and get more of that to be used. And it's a bubble.
It is a bit, and it's really weird. These seeing these industries, and I know that I know that not in the alcohol industry drinks alcohol, but it's weird to see all these people at cannabis stuff that have obviously never touched cannabis or have ever been around someone who's used cannabis, or probably voted against cannabis. What the hell?
Me and my buddy were talking about that when we were running the medical lab, and we were starting to see people around that didn't smoke, and we were like, you know what? Given up many jobs because of drug tests. I straight up, I will refuse, just on principle.
I've never.
That's when you don't take a test, you're not going to pass, and it just it's stupid. I'm not going to piss in a cup to make myself employable to you. And so we were thinking like we need to almost do the same thing in the cannabis industry now because everybody wants in. It's like, no, this is ours. You take a drug test, and if you don't have weed in your system, sorry, get out of here. Go find your own industry. Like, we have worked so hard, and people have been put in jail and killed. And I mean, all of this nonsense, unnecessary nonsense, so that we have what we have now, and now you want in on it because you see dollar signs all of a sudden.
Yeah, I mean, I get capitalism, I get all that, I get they're not doing anything illegal, but at least try. I mean, at least hire someone who knows what they're talking. Like, teach them your product, and then hire someone who knows cannabis and your product, and then that's it. One person. I don't need the whole company to get stoned. One person would be enough. But it's not even that. It's just weird. And so I'll invite people to a cannabis club to interview them, because I did that for a long time. That was sort of my litmus test. If they wouldn't come to a cannabis club, then okay. And people decline that a lot. And they don't have to use when they get there. I don't care about that. It's just weird to see it not happening.
Especially, and I mean, it's weed. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. It's been it's odd to see. I mean, I guess people are worried about driving, which
I'll tell you, I smoke weed all day, every day, and drive around better than all of these other assholes out here chasing fucking Pokemon in the goddamn highway. I'll tell you what, every traffic jam I see now, it's a damn Pikachu out in the road. Every accident, it's a damn Pikachu out there. They're just trying to catch them. I'm here just trying to, keep my high happy, keep my endocannabinoid system primed. That's all. But
yeah, I'm trying to find.
Not everyone can do that, and you need to know. But it is not like alcohol. It will not impair you, and you can't pull people over because you smell weed and then give them a blood test and be like, oh, well, sorry, you're over your nanogram per milliliter of THC blood content. You're going to jail. It's like, no.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure there's some sort of observable behaviors that can get you pulled over. Any of those things, I get that. But I thought for a year when I first started using Oregon medical weed in 2015, like using it exclusively, I would go to the cannabis club or go somewhere and get high, and then I'd wait about an hour or so to come down. I'd drink some water and normally drive home. So I'm not like trying to totally sober up, but whatever. And I would squint, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm a fucking stoner. I can't see. Like, this sucks. So I stopped driving for a while at night just because I was scared about. I didn't want to worry about it. Yeah. So then I got glasses. Turns out it was my glasses. I just couldn't see. It was my eyes. I have astigmatism. I have astigmatism, so my eyes aren't balanced, and it really affects depth perception at night. So now I have glasses, and I'm fine.
Oh man, that's amazing.
Totally fine. Yep. Yep. I thought I was squinting. You're all squinting and like I can't see. And no, turned out I just can't see.
It's just nothing to do. I just needed glasses. Shit.
Yep. Just need glasses. Nothing to do with cannabis. Thought it was really funny.
Oh, that's amazing. But granted, again, new people to the cannabis system and their endocannabinoid system. Like, you need to just know thyself. And if you know that you're the kind of person that's going to get, unable to have motor skills or something, know that, and don't put yourself in the position that you're going to get in trouble. I used to deliver water for a living, so I drove all day, every day by myself, carrying 5-gallon jugs of water up and down stairs and all that shit. And like, cannabis got me through that job, like there wasn't a day that I wasn't smoking in the work truck, just being happy. And that's when I kind of started smoking spliffs, because some of the people were like, hey, kind of smell like weed. We don't care, but maybe some of our clients do. And I was like, all right, that's cool.
Yeah. So spliffs way better for it, way worse for it. That's hilarious.
Well, yeah, worse for you wise, but better for me job wise.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Good old Montana.
Nice. Well, yeah, Arizona isn't as bad as Montana, but I think it's still felony possession, so it's still not.
It had medical in 2004, and then there was
they recently did something to it.
Then they changed it. It was repeal in disguise, and it cut it down from like 30,000 patients to like 3,000 patients. And now they just had a signature gathering drive, and they have the MTCIA, it's Montana Cannabis Industry Association. They are the ones that hired a consulting company to actually get their medical bill on the ballot. There was a push for rec, but it was more grassroots, so they didn't get the signatures they needed. And then there was one gentleman, he owns a used car dealership in Billings, Montana. And if you look at the SOS site as far as donations, donors to the bills, you look at his bill, and it's basically he is trying to get rid of medical marijuana in Montana completely under the guise of getting rid of meth and heroin in Montana, which is weird because those are not Schedule 1 substances or meth. Yeah. So he was asked on the radio, like, well, your bill would basically allow meth in Montana. He's like, oh, well, I'll have to go back and look at that. And so, like, even in all of that nonsense, he didn't come close. He was about 4,000 signatures short.
So he was going to legalize. So he was going to illegalize Schedule 1, but legalize Schedule 2.
Yeah,
the
bill said that any substance federally illegal will remain completely legal in Montana. But he was telling people when he was collecting signatures that it was to keep meth and heroin out of Montana, because Montana has a large meth and heroin problem. So people hear that and they're like, oh, I'll sign it. What they didn't realize is that no, all it does is gets rid of the medical marijuana program.
Yeah.
You look at the donation sheets, top 5 donors. He was number 1 at $99,000. The number 2 person donated $1,500. The number 3, 4, and 5 people in the top donations to this cause, $50.
Wow.
99,000, 1,500, $50.
The guy spent $99,000 trying to get rid of medical marijuana.
Failed, and this is the 3rd time he's failed. So then he goes back and he says, wait, there's 8,000 signatures here, 4,000 of which got lost somehow, and the other ones, we think they are valid. So he's making them like recount all of this. And Jesus. So my question is, like, how much money does 4,000 signatures cost? Because it almost seems like he's just gonna be like, here,
cost $25,000 a signature is what.
There you go.
$2,500 signature. There you go.
If the car dealership's up for sale next month, you know why.
Yeah, no shit. Jesus.
And one person, just a very loud voice, and using those used car salesmen kind of social engineering, not scams, techniques, let's call them.
They're cons. They're con words.
They're manipulating people.
We have a presidential candidate that's doing it very well.
Social engineering. And
yeah. It's not dumb. They're not stupid.
Yeah.
It's not idiocy.
People keep saying, they're like, oh, this guy's such an idiot. Cannabis is good for you. It's not healthy. It's like, you guys, he knows that. He's not dumb. Like he's playing the game perfect. Yeah.
There's something he wants, and he's trying to get it, and that's it.
I did some research on this, and apparently when medical first started in Montana, he had some buildings, and he was going to lease them out to a dispensary and a grow. But in his lease, he wanted like a ridiculous amount of money based on like sales or something.
Oh, yeah.
the guy was like, I'm not doing that. Either be in the business or rent me the space so I can be in the business. I'm not going to give you rent and pay you based on my product. Like, that's ridiculous. So the deal didn't go through. And after that, like, he's had this hard on for the cannabis industry in Montana ever since. And it sucks because there are a lot of legitimate people that are, if this doesn't go through, which I'm sure it will again, but then he'll be back and it'll never end, you know. But there's a lot of people that are scared out of their mind. They're losing their access because the new rule changes until the November vote happens, say that every provider can only have 3 people now. And if they are one of those people, then they can only have 2. And if you want to grow for yourself, you have to own your house, or you have to have like this weird express consent form signed by the landlord, and no landlord's going to sign that shit because it's their liability. They would just as soon rent to someone who's not going to grow more plants or something. So I don't know. It's a mess, man. But it's sad to see that in 2016, with all of this knowledge, like, there's still that kind of shit happening.
Well, yeah, I mean, and that's something I figured out too. It was never about knowledge. It was never about any of that stuff. It was always about power over someone, or existing, you know, keeping the existing power structure stable. It was never about any dangers, because I'm trying to find them, and I'm literally trying to.
Right?
I'm trying to overdose. Like, I wrote an article about overdosing. It was my first stories. I took 100 milligram squib and ate the whole thing as a fairly novice medical user, as an experienced rec user, but novice medical. 100 milligrams is a lot. Now it's not, but it was then. And I was fine. I had a nice nap and woke up and felt awesome. I mean, I didn't mean to nap, but
Sometimes
worst thing that can happen to you, that was definitely unlike the first time I got drunk off of like vodka, where I was sick for 3 days.
Right? Alcohol poisoning. Have you ever heard of poisoning? Yeah.
Alcohol poisoning happens every time. It just depends on how much it poisons you.
How hospitalized you need to be.
Yeah, I love how we say that. Now that I understand what alcohol does and all that, they say alcohol poisoning. I'm like, well, you mean you poisoned him so much he couldn't recover on his own. He has to go get hospital stuff, because he usually poisons himself just enough where he can recover.
We don't call it poisoning. Poisoning is such a dirty, strong word.
Yeah.
We call it getting drunk.
Yeah.
Poison, man, and that shit is terrible.
That's another weird thing. I used to write about cider. I now get drunk off like 4.5 ounces.
I don't drink at all, so I can appreciate that.
I don't think I like alcohol. I may not like it because I wasn't a huge fan of it as a kid, but I didn't have access to weed because of because I got a DUI because I'm in various drinking problems. So yeah, I don't think I like alcohol at all. It's weird.
That too, that have gotten in trouble and then were unable to smoke weed because of the trouble, which then in turn created more trouble because they couldn't smoke weed, right? Like, it's this weird, never-ending cycle of being in the system, and it was never designed for people's good will, benefits, health, any of that in mind. It was simply a psyops tool for these people to push their agendas and keep their jobs, Mr. Harry Anslinger. And
ever get arrested in college for a possible anything drunken related, do not answer the questions honestly, because they will nail you as a problem anything. And it was a terrible experience. Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Well, shit, man. I appreciate the time. You got anything else?
Thank you.
To mention the website's definitely, and anywhere people can find.
Yeah, I'm on tdhurst.com, burningbushpodcast.com. Sometimes in Willamette Week. Right now, I am really trying to focus on the podcast stuff, trying to get all that stuff out, because I want to start writing about PTSD and cannabis and how it can help people through with chronic stress, which I think will help.
Very awesome. I've been talking at some of these expos to the Grow for Vets groups. There's one in Washington, there's one in Oregon. They are really awesome people. So you probably already know about them, but they'd be awesome to have on the show.
Yeah, there's a bunch of a good vets programs, and Grow for Vets is one of them. So
definitely lots of activism going on. You going to HempFest this weekend? This
I do not know. I have yes, I am. Yes, I am, because I have an event on Saturday afternoon that I'm going to be in the same town for. So yes, I am.
Cool.
Yes.
Well, we will see you there then.
I will text you when I'm there.
Excellent. Well, cool. Hey, Tyler, man, it's been awesome. I appreciate the conversation.
Thank you, Matt.
we'll direct everyone to your podcast, and maybe you have some time. Maybe I'll come on the podcast and we'll do a little hotbox burning bush action.
We will do that.
Awesome, man. Tyler Hurst. All right, Tyler Hurst, tdhurst.com, burningbush.com. Check him out. He's on Instagram and the Twitters. I think he might not be on Twitter anymore. But yeah, awesome kid. Met him, like I said, at the Cannabis Terpene dinner there in Nehalem. So check that out. Hotboxpodcast.com, of course, for all of this stuff here. I've been covering lots of expos and conferences and stuff for the Cannabis Journal. So you can check out my new day job as the managing operations editor at the Cannabis Journal, cannabisjournal.com. So check that out, support the magazine, and support us in the process. StuffStonersLike.com still got some reviews up there. Gonna get through some of this backlog and get some more weed to review. Hopefully gonna get some more Oregon buds, because of course it is always nice seeing what other states are doing with their cannabis. So yeah, other than that, enjoy all of these interviews we've been having. And if you have anyone in mind, or you yourself want to come on and talk about what it's like living in a shitty prohibitionist state, or maybe you live in a not shitty non-prohibitionist state, get a hold of me, info@hotboxpodcast.com. So thanks for listening. Check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram @the Jam Hole. And yeah, we'll talk to you next time. Have a great day.